Hi everybody. So today I'm going to do a video just talking about kind of like the shape of the universe. I've been racking my brain today trying to come up with basically the engineer design for a clean energy device, but it's I know once we finally get it, it's going to be incredibly simple yet incredibly sophisticated. You know, it's just like Leonardo da Vinci said, you know, simplicity is sophistication. Um, but it's just you have to apply a lot of the fundamentals of existence to how to design something with magnets that is efficient and will work. I've gotten the magnets moving before, but it's nothing like our current generators with chemical propulsion and different things like that, you know, and you need something that's practical, that's feasible, you know. So I need your help, you know, I need your help to try to use this stuff that you can learn on my channel and to apply it to engineering and design so we can basically solve this problem of the clean energy that we need, because the certain the current inventions that exist are not practical. You know, wind energy, you have to have the windmills everywhere. That's not really practical. Solar energy, you know, the solar cells work for a while, but then they become waste, and that's not really that practical. You know, with fossil fuels, you know, we're going to run out of them after time. Nuclear energy, you have nuclear waste, you know, so it's none of it is really practical yet. So I'm trying to come up with something that's clean energy. Like us, we're clean energy. You know, all we are is basically an accumulation of magnets, uh, and that's basically all that we are. And if we can design something, engineer something that's clean energy, just like life is, well then we'll be able to be completely clean. So let me get into basically. Okay, so let me show you something real quick that I was playing with earlier that I thought was kind of cool. Okay, so in the middle of our solar system, you have the sun. On the outside of that, you have Mercury, Venus, the Earth, Mars, and Jupiter. Okay, I'm not going to go any farther. Okay, so they're kind of orbiting around the sun in elliptical orbits, so it's kind of like a triangle that holds them in. Okay? And the way that they're orbiting around the sun is they're not orbiting necessarily in a straight plane. They're kind of orbiting like this, you know what I mean? Going every which direction. The only thing about it is we don't have a focal point really to compare it to yet. I mean, astronomers and people like that probably could if they wanted to, if they realize this stuff yet, which they really haven't. And I'm trying to put this out there into the world, but so whenever you basically connect the triangles and make them into pyramids, okay? What does that look like to you? Well, if you watched any of my other videos, it looks like the gradises of space. Okay? Because they're infinitely pulling in, infinitely pushing out. Okay? Basically a series of spheres getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger. Okay? So it's like I've said before, you know, it's like the infinite torus, okay? Getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger, okay? That's all existence is, okay? So those look like the gradises of space, okay? But I was basically playing around because Pythagoras is kind of more or less who I look to for a lot of answers on things, because he was so enlightened. He lived before Christ, before Buddha, before Muhammad, before so many enlightened people, and he knew so much simply because he interpreted his dreams. You know what I mean? So I look to him for a lot of answers on things, but there's something that was kind of like the symbol of the Pythagoras and the Pythagoreans, his followers, and it was called the tetracysts. I think it was called the tetracysts, but basically the tetracysts are like, they're shaped like this, okay? It's basically just a bunch of little dots. Okay? You have 1, 2, 3, 4. All of them add up to 10 in all, okay? But whenever you look at the inner part of it and you connect them, what does that look like to you? Well, I'll tell you what it looks like to me. It looks like a cube, okay? So, and then what does this look like to you on the outside of it? Well, looks to me like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a hexagon, okay? Now, beehives, what are they shaped like? Well, they're shaped like multiple hexagons. Okay? So, how did I draw that while ago? Yeah, I can do that. Okay. So they're just basically a bunch of hexagons that are connected, okay? So you can think of these as kind of like cubes, okay? So whenever you basically connect them all, let me make sure I connect them right so it looks the way it's supposed to. No. Okay. So basically it's just a bunch of little cubes that are interconnected, okay? Once you connect all the lines, okay? So, what is existence, okay? Well, existence is basically, like I said, the gradises of space And if you've seen my other videos, you'll understand all this stuff. Okay, so it's basically the grasses of space, okay? Getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger, okay? So, let me think what I'm talking about right now. Okay, so yeah, that's the way that you can basically just think about existence, okay? Because if you watch my previous videos, you'll understand that all we are is basically an accumulation of antiphotons and photons within the Higgs, which are all infinite, okay? So I'm shooting out photons and antiphotons at you. That's how I'm able to communicate with you, okay? That's how you're able to see me. That's how you're able to hear me, okay? And you can see me and hear me and all that stuff through the radio waves that I'm communicating through on the internet right now, okay? So, it's like I've said in my previous videos, I basically absorb all the antiphotons and photons that are coming at me, okay? I absorb all those as well as I shoot out photons and antiphotons, okay? So all the antiphotons and all the energy around me is absorbing that, okay? Because everything is beyond infinite, okay? Existence as a whole is both finite and infinite, okay? Because it's infinite because there's no beginning and no end, and it's beyond infinite because there's no beginning, there's no end, there's a beginning and an end, okay? Hence, mass, okay? So, for instance, me, I was born, someday I will die, okay? But as a whole, existence is infinite. It's beyond infinite, okay? Yeah, what else did I want to go over real quick? So, that's what I was going to talk about real fast. So, if you apply Pythagoras' symbol, I can't really remember how you're supposed to pronounce that. I think it's tetrasis, something like that. I don't know. It's kind of complicated, but so if you apply his symbol, and you connect basically the pyramids on the outside. Okay, so it's basically just pyramids that are being infinitely absorbed to the center, okay? So if you basically, because these look like kind of like cubes, okay? So if you take the pyramids and you separate them, okay, and then you make them in the cubes. Okay. That's basically all that existence is, okay? Except the cubes are both getting infinitely larger and infinitely smaller, okay? Just like this. Infinitely smaller, infinitely larger, okay? That's existence, okay? The But the thing about it is, the thing that's hard with coming up with a clean energy device is that you have to apply this to magnets. And I've been playing with magnets today, hanging them up from the ceiling, and it's just, I'm racking my brain and I'm trying to come up with something, but the first step to enlightenment is asking for help. So I'm asking for your help, okay, to help the world by coming up with a clean energy device, okay? Because if we have that, hopefully we can reverse some of the quote-unquote man-made issues that we've caused with our, interacting with the homeostasis of the rest of nature, and hopefully we can reverse that if it actually exists. You never know. I mean, if you watch my previous videos, the sun, might be evolving into the next thing. And if it does that, which, I theorize that some of the stuff you need to watch my previous videos for to be able to understand, but I theorize that the sun is just a photon. And right now, it's a mercury photon. But if it's evolving into a thallium photon, and that's why basically our climate is changing so quickly, that's a bad thing, because that basically means that, unless we develop technology very quickly that makes it so that we can travel away from this planet and basically go habitate somewhere else, we're just SOL, So, but yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of talk about a little bit of clean energy, how to develop it, the shape of existence. So basically, just think of existence as a series. You can think of it like a series of spheres getting infinitely smaller or infinitely larger, or a series of eggs and spheres getting infinitely larger and infinitely smaller, okay? Or you can think of it as a series of cubes getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger, okay? But overall, what do those all have in common? Well, infinity. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about that, and I'm going to, at the end of this video, I'm going to leave a little video for you guys to watch dealing with the sine waves, cosine waves, how those basically factor in the gratis's as well as beehives, and how they're basically related to the spheres and the eggs. Okay, so yeah, that's all it is. On a fundamental level. Okay, is basically just photons, antiphotons contained within the Higgs, which are all beyond infinite. Okay, that's all it is. It's like all of existence is basically just a big wormhole of time, getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger. Okay? Well, that's another thing I wanted to talk about was mathematics. Okay? With mathematics, okay? People like Einstein and Planck, they understood that the universe could be infinite because they thought on a transcendental level. Okay, they didn't just think about it like the way a lot of scientists and people like that think about it now. Okay, they thought about things not just from measurement, but also from things you couldn't measure. Okay, so you can measure this marker, but everything that surrounds it is pretty much immeasurable. Okay, and everything that's within it is pretty much immeasurable, okay, because it's all infinite, okay, it's all beyond infinite, okay. So Yeah, let me talk about that real quick. So you can think of, okay, think of our galaxy, for instance, okay? You can think of the middle of our galaxy, the black hole, which, like I've said in previous videos, is basically just an optical illusion, okay? If you chase after the black hole, you're never going to catch it. You know why? Because it's just like chasing a rainbow. You're never going to catch it because it's an optical illusion, okay? All you're going to do is just keep seeing more planets, more stars, more planets, more stars, more planets, more stars in space, and you're going to say, shouldn't we got to that black hole by now, like 20 years ago? So, anyway, but you can think about the black hole at the center of the galaxy as antiphotons. The star, which is the next step, is a photon. The planet is the next step, is antiphotons, because what's pulling us all together, okay? What's pulling us all towards the center? The Earth, right? The planet. Well, antiphoton, okay? And then what is life? You can think of life as photons, okay? All in all, on a deeper level, they're all a conglomeration of photons, antiphotons contained within the infinite Higgs, okay? But if you want to think about it simply like that, that's how it is. Black hole, star, planet, life, okay? And all of it is just basically a big wormhole, okay? You're a wormhole. I'm a wormhole. This table is a wormhole. This chair is a wormhole. How's this chair a wormhole? Well, because I can sit on it. Okay? I'm sitting on it right now. It's holding me up. It's pushing out magnetic waves, as well as pulling in magnetic waves with the use of gravity and entropy waves, because it's holding me up. But at the same time, I can see it because it's pushing out photons and it's pulling in photons, okay? And on a deeper level, it's pushing out antiphotons, photons contained within the infinite Higgs, okay? So that was it. It was just a basic video today. I just wanted to go over some things. So one more thing I wanted to go over is the golden ratio and spheres, okay? So think of it like this, okay? So you have spheres, which are like this. Okay? So basically you have spheres, okay? And then you have the golden ratio, which is like this. Okay? So, that doesn't look quite as good as the drawing that I did on my paper down here, but it's kind of like I was saying with spheres and eggs, okay? So if you have a galaxy, which is both pulling in and pushing out everything, okay, it looks kind of like that, okay? But whenever you account for the golden ratio, what does it look like? Well, kind of looks like an egg, right? Well, that's how existence works, okay? It's basically just spheres and eggs, okay? Because what did you come from originally? What does all life originate from? An egg, okay? Or a seed, which is pretty much an egg, right? And what is contained within the egg? Well, infinite antiphotons, photons, and Higgs, which are basically spheres and eggs, okay? So yeah, you can think of it like that, you know? A series of spheres getting infinitely smaller, infinitely larger. You can think of it as a series of eggs getting infinitely smaller, infinitely larger, or you can think of it, as cubes getting infinitely smaller, infinitely larger, okay? You can apply all shapes to it. Squircles, circles, spheres, cubes, everything, okay? But it's all getting infinitely smaller and infinitely larger, okay? So, yeah, I think that's pretty much about it today. I'll also go over a little bit in the video about Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, okay? Because you have, say you have a triangle like this. Then you have 3 squares surrounding it. Okay, so this is basically c squared, a squared, b squared. Okay, so you apply that to the gradiuses of space. You take the squares and you go like this. Okay, and what does that look like again to you? Well, it looks to me like the gradiuses of space, getting infinitely smaller, infinitely larger. But whenever you apply this to graphing mathematically, what does it look like? Well, it looks like an egg. Gets infinitely smaller, infinitely larger. Okay? So, yeah, that's pretty much about it. Stick around for the video that I'm adding on after this. And thank you for your time. But if you can, I think it would really help out all of us if all of you that watch this video start acquiring magnets and start playing with them and start trying to apply this stuff to it so we can figure out a clean energy device. Okay, and if you come up with something that's good, you can get a hold of me in the comments, and if you need money or anything like that for a patent and I like the idea and everything like that and I think it'd work, we can work together on it. Okay? So, all right, well, thank you for your time. Okay, so I just want to go over a few things on this. So, as you can see, this is the shape of a beehive. Okay, it's like a hexagon shape, which you can think of as cubes. Okay, once you connect all the lines. Okay, so those are basically the shapes of a beehive. And then you have the beehive itself overall, which is shaped like what? Well, it's shaped like an egg. Okay, so you have that, and then let's go to this app. Now, accounting for a squared plus b squared equals c squared, like I was talking about before, you can apply basically 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. Okay, so you basically just plug this in for x, y, and z, and you add a slider in for z. So what do you have? Well, let's look. You have an egg getting infinitely smaller, infinitely larger. Okay, and that's basically, like I was saying before, you have the infinite eggs and infinite spheres, okay, infinite cubes, infinite triangles, infinite everything, okay, but what is it? It's all infinite, okay, and the way that we can see this stuff is through mathematics, okay, because with mathematics, mathematics is intangible, okay, it's massless, so hence why it's infinite. Because we can't touch it. You know what I mean? It's all within our minds, and it'll only exist as long as the race that
has the capability to use it exists. Okay, so once we're gone, it'll be gone with us. And you know, if there's some other entity or race or something like that that's out there, they'll probably use their own form of mathematics. But anyway, so hence why mathematics is infinite, because everything within existence is beyond infinite. Okay, so these are basically sine waves, cosine waves, and applying for antiphotons, photons contained within the Higgs, you have to basically account for the negatives. So whenever you do that, you can see that within the squircles, within the waves, you can see basically the cubes. Okay, can you see those cubes between the waves? Okay, those are kind of like the gratis's. Okay, and you can see that basically the waves can also be considered kind of like looking like a little bit like egg shapes. Okay, because once you cut off the edge, what does that shape look like? Well, that shape will look like an egg. Okay, so that's basically kind of like showing how the waves relate to, you know, the cubes, the spheres, the eggs, everything. So I just wanted to show that video. I think that's about it for this. If you want to see any of my other videos relating to the mathematical graphing and different things like that, you can look at my other videos. And a lot of this stuff, it's hard for me because I have to go over it over and over and over again, explaining a lot of different things, and so it's difficult for somebody just watching one of my videos starting out to get a grasp of it, because it's all kind of convoluted over many different videos. But okay, well, thank you for your time.